Global austerity measures impact a variety of different stakeholders who in turn have an impact then on the pharmaceutical industry. And three key ones which I certainly have top of mind. Number one, the public payer. Number two, the patient. And number three, the investment community.
A lot of the main changes are issues like pharma hasn't been paid for a large amount of time. Countries like Spain, Portugal, Greece haven't paid their bills for a long time. And that's something that's very important to pharma. They need to have this cash flow to obviously feed back into the research budgets to pay for the development of new drugs.
I think the austerity situation means that payers are constantly looking for best value from all forms of interventions, whether that's a drug or a device. And while this has kind of always been the aim, it's now absolutely essential. This in turn puts pressure on the pharma not only to prove efficacy and safety, but also to prove value. And the only way to do that is through real-world data. To prove value in the real world, they need to use real-world data.
First of all, with the public payer. Government austerity naturally means cuts on healthcare budgets, maybe spending and stopping spending altogether. And if you actually have a look at some of the countries, we can see evidence of that. Austria, they're cutting 1.6 billion in their healthcare budget 2016. Greece immediately wiped off 1 billion of their healthcare budget spend. Spain is another example where they're cutting 10 billion immediately from their healthcare and education budgets. So you can see that there's a serious impact that's having on the healthcare budgets, the resources that are available for public payers to utilise. And that immediately means that there's less resources available for pharma to be able to utilise as well.
There are much stricter cost containment programs. Some of the older measures like price freezes are being used more often. Price cuts are becoming quite common in a lot of markets now. And we're seeing changes to the reimbursement programs.
RCTs can obviously prove efficacy and safety, but only real-world data can prove value and show the benefits of an intervention in the real world. And the best source of real-world data is the patients.
If patients' employees are certainly lucky enough to keep their jobs, then they are likely not to have a salary rise and to keep the salaries maintained to a particular minimum. And that all means that there's less disposable income for people to spend. One of the first areas that goes when disposable income reduces is healthcare. And we see certainly less supplements to private healthcare insurance, and we certainly see implications as well in terms of the number of people that are wanting to have more public healthcare funding, and also other diseases that are starting increasing because of stress, because of anxiety, in terms of the employment and the financial crisis.
There's no doubt that the best source of real-world data is the patient. The challenge is to involve the patients in collecting this data and thus help prove real value in the real world.
And also we're seeing a very important switch from branded products to generics, and more recently from generic products to the least expensive product in a therapy class, which is called therapeutic substitution. And this enables the patient obviously access to a very low cost product. However, those products may not have the side effect profile that patients would hope for. However, they don't have the high copay that they would have with either a branded or a generic alternative.
And the third area is the investment community. Now, I choose the investment community because they've certainly had a big impact in the financial crisis anyway. They also are having a significant impact at the moment in terms of making or breaking the pharmaceutical industry's share ratings. And we've seen that with a couple of companies recently where some maybe negative data or investors' analytical criticism on their financial performance has meant that their share prices has dropped significantly.